morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday webinar. My name is Michael Wimberly, and we will be covering Change Management Part 2. If you missed the first one, Change Management Part 1, just let us know. Email me, and I'll give my email address in just a moment, but you can email me and we can get you a link to the Part 1 of the webinar series. But Part 2 is now going to go through and talk about the change notice part of the. So for this one, once again, we're going to go in and review the Windchill change management with the change notices and the associated change tasks. And then, of course, after that, we're going to go in and do a live demo. And then following that will be a Q&A. Any questions that you have, please put them in the question box inside of the GoToWebinar dialog box, and we will answer those at the end of. All right, so once again, my name is Michael Wimberly. I'm Technical Director of Customer Success here at PDSVISION. I've been with the company for over 11 years now. I've been working with PTC products for over 25 years. I've been 20 plus years in the PTC channel, working with different VARs, training, and so on and so forth. And of course, certified PTC trainer and implementer of both Creo and Windchill. All right, so PDSVISION at a glance, we are headquartered in Stockholm, and we have operations now in 13 countries. I forgot to update that. That is still says 12, but 13. We are a trusted advisor of software solutions and services in digital transformation with over 2,500 years combined, of course, of technical expertise within our domain. We are one of PTC's top partners. We're platinum level. We are worldwide VAR. As you can see by the map on the left, we have, of course, offices here in the US. We have office in Canada, and then we go over into Europe, South Africa, as well as India and Asia. So we do have a large footprint that we cover. So if you are a global company and you have other offices in other parts of the world, come talk to us. We can go in and potentially have someone in that particular area that we can connect you with. And of course, with the MyPDS, we have many applications ourselves that we have developed that can also go in and increase your usage of software and other applications. So we'll cover those later on, but we are doing multiple series, once again, on some of our MyPDS applications that will help you, whether once again you're using Windchill or other softwares or just Creo as a whole. All right, so the digital transformation journey. So some of the challenges that companies have is, of course, with your products. You want to make your products smart. You want to connect them to the internet with the Internet of All Things. Of course, fulfill regulations, and of course, build the digital twin. So you have the actual product, but you have the digital version of that as well. In production, we always want to go through and decrease manufacturing downtime. We want to be able to predict failures. We want to go through and get the knowledge that we have from the current workforce that's kind of starting to retire. We want to go through and be able to get their knowledge and be able to transfer it into the current workforce. Of course, optimize the production through AI. Take advantage of it. It's the thing that's going on right now. We might as well take advantage of it in our different industries. We want to move data with processes. We want to remove data silos. So instead of everything being just strictly in that particular area, we want to be able to begin to share data across the multiple areas of our company. So once again, smart connected systems. We also want to do smart connected operations, and of course, service and operations. For the infrastructure, we want to reduce non-value IT costs. So once again, get rid of unnecessary overhead, look into cloud, using cloud, because once again, we all know that that's where a lot of people are moving. And of course, using SaaS, which is software as a service. We can also go in and do that as well. Once again, that's also the move where a lot of software companies are now selling the software as a service versus an actual downloadable part of the application. And of course, your data, big data, you have a lot of information, you want to be able to maintain it and securely store it. You want to create value out of the data, once again, through AI, data lakes, and of course, using a different analysis, and of course, data and cybersecurity, and create new business models. So all these things are what people are moving to, or the overall picture of where people want to go with their digital footprint, the digital transformation. So with that, we're looking at change management. So if you've seen any of our other webinars before, or even a presentation that we've done, we've kind of given you this digital thread layout where the multiple circles deal with different levels of the digital thread. The inner circle being just simply product visualization, which is the CAD, the technical publications, even the CAD management of those files. And then we have the process virtualization, which is part classifications, bond management, change management, project management, quality, and then you come out further, digital manufacturing, additive manufacturing, 3D manufacturing, design for manufacturing, of course, supplier integration, that's always good. And of course, definitely ERP integration. And then the next move from paper to model-based definition. So that's also another move. And then of course, disconnected systems, IoT, smart information. As you can see, IoT is a good part of this. Big data, cybersecurity, as we get more digital, hackers, and get more intelligent. So we want to go in and continue to make sure we increase our cybersecurity with our information as well. With all that being said, the area that we're focusing on is this second ring, which of course, once again, is change management underneath the process virtualization. All right. So what is change management? Once again, it's engineering change management is a process of documenting, reviewing, and approving changes to engineer design. Companies have a custom process as to how they handle them. So every company has some type of a process, whether it's documented or not, how you go through and access or go through your actual changes in models. But as a core, there's normally three main things. There is a report of a problem or a proposal of an improvement. That problem and improvement is then analyzed. And then if it's decided to move forward, then that problem or improvement is then implemented. So those are the main three things. It has to go through review, and then of course it just has to be then implemented. Windchill, of course, goes in and manages those processes with problem reports, change requests, and change notices. As I said before, the part one of this dealt with the problem reports and the change requests. This part two now deals with the change notices. And as stated before, change processes in Windchill are not just CAD specific. You can do change process on any type of files that you have inside of Windchill. So whether it's documents, zip files, other CAD files, whatever it may be that you actually store in Windchill, they actually can go through a particular change process that you can go in and customize. All right, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the demonstration. All right, so the first thing we want to look at is where we ended last time was this change request. So I never completed it, but that was where we left off. Was we had finished up everything and we had this change request. So here's the change request. As you can see down here, we have the attachments that has the different viewables that we can go in and look at as far as the information that we wanted to change. So these are snapshots that we had created. And then of course the impacts being the actual CAD files that were associated with them. And which one? I think this one had, nope, it was not. Of course I picked the one that did not have it. Let's do this one. There it is. So this one actually also had a markup that we did inside of Creo View. So once again, part of that process of the change request is reviewing everything. Well, when we got information from, the shop guys that they wanted to go through and change some things, we went into Creo View and we went in, it just simply did a simple markup, you know, just so that we can go in and document what it was that we were looking at. And then those little snapshots that I just showed you are actually just a screenshot of this. So this is here inside of this model, once again, in Creo view, that you can use. Once again, anybody that has access to it can go through and view it. All right. So once again, at this point, we have the change request that we're going to go through and execute. Down here is the path that we're going to go in and take. So we're going to do fast track. You have full track, of course, clarify, reassign, reject, and review. We're going to do a fast track because we don't need that change implementation board review, which is where the full track comes in. So it goes through there, but in that process, there is another review that happens, kind of like in the change request, there's a change review board. There's also in the change notice process, a change implementation board. So that actually will go in and do the equivalent of that change review board. So we're just going to go and do a fast track and complete the task. All right, from here, I am going to search in my tasks for change notice. I have a bunch of stuff in there. That's why I'm doing it this way. So you can see that once I completed that change request, it now came in and gave me a create new change notice task. Now, going back to who gets what. So the problem report and the change request are all assigned to the role of change administrator 1. When you go into the change notice, that now goes into change administrator 2. So once again, I am in all these roles that we're doing just to make it simple for us to go through and see the information. But of course, you can have different people in different roles. But the change notice now goes to the change administrator 2. So I'm gonna come over here and select on this. And once again, the task is to go in and create a new change notice. So we want to create a change notice from the change request. So it has a link, of course, to the change request that was just approved. I will open it up and I'll come up here and say actions, new, change notice. The benefit of doing this is right up here at top, just like we had when we did the problem report to a change request. It has the ability to go and now propagate the information from the change request into the change notice. Now, currently the name of this is slot with increase, but this change notice is going to have a little bit more than just that in there. So I'm going to go in and change the name of this to chair alterations. Did I spell that right? Alterations. Sounds good. All right. And then the due date for that one, initially, of course, you can see here we're actually past the due date. I should have moved it forward since I wasn't going to do this for another 2 weeks. But I will go ahead and move this to November, and we will say that this needs to be completed by, we'll say, the end of the week. All right. And then what is this change notice going to do? It's going to go through and increase the width. To make it more stable, we're going to increase a radius size. We're also going to go in and create document. And also go in and update drawings. So these are all the things that we are going to do within this one change notice. And once again, we're here with the fast track, and I'll just simply go in and say next. The next thing that it's going to do is going to come over here and give me my implementation task. So as you saw from what I just typed in, there's more than one thing that we're actually going to do here. But right now, this has just the individual task associated with it. So with this one, we're going to go ahead and move forward with it. So I'm going to say edit this. And this one, I'm going to say modify seats, because what we will see, oh, sorry, before I go forward. So I specify what this task is going to be, and then I specify who's going to do it, and then who's going to check it. So these are people, of course, that are on our team. So once again, for simplification, I'm using me to do both. So once again, I can go through and find somebody else to assign it to and have them go through and make the changes that are necessary, and then have someone else other than me come through and actually review these changes. And once again, through this process, it is a approve or reject. And it'll go through that loop until whatever the changes that are done are approved, and then it'll move on to the next one. So here is the information for that. And then next, oh, and if I want to put some type of description in here, I could as well. Next, we'll now go in and show this information. So we have these files here, which are the files that we are going in and using. So these are the affected items, and down here underneath here will be the resulting items. So basically from here, what are we going to end up with? Now, what you're looking at here, we have our WT parts, and then we have our CAD files. Now, as we go from PLM focus to also PDM focus to PLM focus, which means now we're looking at incorporating other individuals from other parts of our company that may not be engineering, or even the integration with our ERP systems, then this is where this information can also come in handy. Because now we can come over here and specify for any of the items that are currently associated here. So for the rod, the left side, and the right side, what do we want to do? Anything that is on order, anything that is currently in process, and anything that is finished. So we have these options here. Anything that is on order, we're going to go ahead and return. Anything that is a work in progress, we can go in and rework those. And then anything that is currently finished, we'll go ahead and use it as is. So we can go through and specify what the disposition of those items are. And I did these individually. There is the ability up here to go through and set the disposition as well. I think it's right here. Set the disposition. So I can go in and select multiple and then set the disposition basically at one time. But I did it just because it's right here. So I can go through and set this up. The other thing, as I'm going through here, I can also come through, select on these, and under actions, these are some additional items that we can do. So we can do a one-off version, we can do a supersede with, or we can, supersede with new or supersede with existing. So maybe this is something that we're gonna replace with another file that is already there. We can go through and actually retrieve that. If we say supersede with new, we will go in and create a new WT part file. And at the same time we create that new WT part file, we'll also be able to create the new CAD file and then model up what that is going to look like. But if it's an existing one, we can simply go in and pull it from the database, just simply search for it, and now say we're going to go through and supersede those. Now, the other thing that we can do is there's also a set change intent. So maybe we're not going to go through and define the resulting objects just yet. We're going to let the actual person that makes the changes do those changes. So from here, I'm going to say set change intent. So what I want to do is for those, I'm going to go in and say my intention is to go in and revise those. Now I put that in there, but you do not see that immediately because that is a separate column that can be added. So I added it, and there is the change intent. So right now, everything is going to be revised. If I want to change something specifically, I can go through and do that as well. So maybe my intent is to obsolete this version of it. I can go through and set that up, revise it, use it as a reference. Maybe it's something I'm not changing. It's just I'm just leaving it here as a specific reference that I can use later on. So whatever it is I want to go through and use, I can go through and set that for these items here. So once again, because of this, and I've set this up, I don't necessarily have to go in and do my resulting items right now for this, but because I'm here and depending upon the permissions of the person that is actually doing the changes, they may or may not have the permission to be able to do a revise. So just so that, that's out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and select everything, and I can come over here and select on revise. All right. And of course, it's going in and showing that things are going to be revised from A's to B's. It's of course excluding the format because that's the format. We're not going in and doing anything with that. Great. So now once I do that, all of the resulting objects will now show up down here at the bottom. So you can see everything now at B. So now when the individual comes, whoever I'm assigning this to, when they're getting ready to go in and make their changes, they're going to be changing the B version of these, not the A version. Awesome. Go ahead and finish this. That one is complete. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want two other tasks. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to specify this task is going to be just a simple change task. And for this one, we're going to go in and say, create assembly drawing. Once again, who's going to check it? Who's going to do it? Who's going to check it? Need by date. Once again, what date is it that I want this actually to be done by? So I need this by a specific date. I can go through and specify that as well because I'm doing all this at once. No big deal. So I can come over here and select next. Now, because I don't have anything in here, I do want to go ahead and add the assembly to this. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to search for the assembly, and I'm going to use the name, which is going to be SS underscore seat dot ASM. Oh, Sam. It's not Sam. ASM. Search. All right, and now it goes in, and of course it finds the CAD file and the WT part file. So I'm going to go ahead and select these. These now get added. And now what is my intention for these? I don't plan on revising these. These are just going to be here for reference. So I don't plan on doing anything with this because I'm going to create a drawing that I'm going to add down here at the bottom. All right, so I'll go ahead and finish that out. And there's the second one. And then the third one, I'm going to go in and simply say create installation document. Create installation doc. All right. And there's nothing for me to add. So this is actually going to be a new file that I'm going to go through and create. So I'm going to go ahead and say finish. And there's that. Now I have 3 tasks. Now, are all 3 of those tasks going to happen at the same time? Right now, yes. Should they? No. That is where this sequence comes in, because now I can specify the order that these needs to happen. So the order that needs to happen is the modifying of the seats needs to be the first thing that's done. Then after that, we can go in and create this drawing. And then after the drawing is created, we can now go through and create the document. So I'm going in and specifying the order that these things need to be completed in. And once again, they're all going to come to me. So we're going to see all these things pop up in my tasks. All right, so at this point, I'll go ahead and select next. If there's any specific attachments I would have, I can go in and add those. Next, it's now going in and showing the change request that was actually initiated to go in and execute this change notice. And that's good. So I'll go ahead and say finish. And then I'll go ahead and say submit now. All righty. So now let's close that out. Let's go back. For the change request, create new change notice. I have now completed that. Awesome. All right, so I'm waiting for this to finish. So there you go. So now we can see inside of my task, the first thing that shows up is complete the modifying of the seats. So at this point, I'm going to go away from the browser and I'm going to go into Creo. Once again, let this refresh. There we go. All right, so there is the change notice and then the resulting objects. So remember those things that I went in and did the revise. You can see that it's currently showing everything at D. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these files real quickly, right click on them, and I'm going to go ahead and say add to workspace. Let's create a new workspace real quick. And we'll call this change, make it active. Great, great, great. Just to validate what is there, I always go to the advanced tab. There's everything. Say okay. And now I'm not going to do the full changes that we went in and specified. I'm just going to make a change just to go in and modify it. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up in Creo. And then I'm just going to go ahead and just double click on something. Yes, to check it out. So those that, once again, when you're working inside of here, it still has that restriction that you have to go in and specify what you're going to do with that file. I am going to check it out because my plan is to check it in. Checked out. Let's do the 0.11. I just want to do something that changes it. Save. Close. Go back to my workspace. There's that modified. Real quick, let me hit the other ones as well. As I said, just real quick, just to check it out. 0.13, just gonna round it. Great, save, close. And the last one here, once again, quick modification. So once again, if this was, excuse me, the full design, I would go through and make the actual changes that have been specified. And of course, just validate that everything is okay. So I'll go back to my workspace. We can then see that these items, the 3 CAD files have changed. The drawings are just going to automatically update, so there's nothing I'm really going to do with those. So I'm going to select on those 3 files, and let's go ahead and check those in. I can put in a comment that simply says updated per ECN. And then I will put the number, whatever it may be. So I'll just say whatever the number is. Next, don't need to do any auto associating. Everything is good. Do our quick little check-in. Awesome. Everything is now at B.2. So now when I go back to the change, and I look at the information, this is the test. I think I jumped too far. Sorry. I'm just going to go back in here and open it up directly. I think I went to the wrong change task. All right. So when I open this back up, you can now see that this has been updated with the B.2 version of those files. So at this point, for this change notice task, I've basically completed it. So I have gone in and updated the files. I'll go ahead and say that this has now been complete. Give it a second. And then what we will see, let's refresh again. There it is. So the next one is the reviewing of that task. So now as the checker, I can now go into the resulting objects. I can go in and open these up, review it. I can go back into the original one, look at the, or either go into the change notice to look at the icons or the JPEGs that I created, or go into Creo view, look at the markups and validate that everything that we needed was changed. We're gonna go ahead and say, yes, everything looked good. And we're gonna go ahead and complete. So once again, it's either complete or rework at this point. So if there was something that was still wrong, I can come over and say rework, tell them which model was wrong, tell them what was wrong in the comments, have them updated, and once again, go through this cycle until everything has been completed. All right, so at this point, we will consider this task complete. And then once again, give it a few moments. And the next thing that I should see is the second of the tasks that we specified, which is creating the assembly drawing. So I'll go ahead and select on this once again. Currently for this, there is no resulting object because once again, we haven't gone through and created the thing that we need yet. So what I'm going to do is come into here. I can look at this. This is the model that I want. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, open this in Creo. So there's that. And I'm just once again, do something really quick for a drawing. I'm going to tell it to use the same model information. And we can do empty without a format. And open up the master rep and place a view on here. Right there. Looks good. Beautiful drawing. Save it. Close. And once again, of course, you would go through and do more. Go back to my workspace. There is now the drawing, the stadium seat drawing. And same thing, I'm going to go ahead and now check this in. Just say created new drawing. Next, nothing to do here. Finish. Great. So now once again, I will go back to the change task. Once again, still didn't do the right one. Why is that not showing me what I want? I'm just going to go back here every time. Makes it easy. Go into here. Once again, the resulting objects, there's nothing there. So at this point, I am now going to edit the change task. So up here at the top is the actual assembly, and the WT part. Down here is where I need the drawing. So I'm going to come down here, say add the object. The name of it is the same as the stadium seat. So it's still going to be SS_seat, but it is DRW. Search. There it is. And now the resulting object is the drawing that we created for this task. Now at this point, I will come over here and say that I have completed this task. And then once again, I'm going to go through this one real quick. To get the approval. Come on, didn't give it to me yet. Did I miss it? Shouldn't. Yeah, I don't know where that went. There it is. But I just searched on the review because it is basically a review task. So once again, complete it. Everything looks good. Great. And the last one, once again, I'll create this one real quick as well, is going to be the creating of the drawing. I apologize. Not sure why it's not showing me my last task. Let's go in and all of that is complete. Yeah, all that's complete. Yep. And we approved it. So where is my last task? Apologies once again, I'm not sure why it's not showing me that final task for me to go through and complete. Yeah, it's not even seeing it. Yeah, once again, I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on with this and why it's not showing that third task that was assigned to me, was just creating the drawing. I'm sorry, creating the document. So let's come down here and go into here. Implementation plan. There it is. Yeah, not sure why this isn't showing, but I'm going to make it work. You will never have to do this. But for some reason, it is not behaving appropriately. So what I'm going to do real quickly is I'm come over here and I'm going to create this document. And it's just simply a regular document. And I already have the file that I need. So I've already created it. I'm just going to drag it in here. There it is. Finish. Great. All right. So what I'm going to do, so what I ended up doing that once again, you should never have to do, is I went back into the change request or the change notice that had the change tasks in there, and I'm directly in that specific change task. So the one that it didn't give me, which is the create document, oh, well, that's probably why I didn't find it either, because I said create documentation. But here nor there. But the affected items are here. The resulting items is the document that I just created. So the same thing, I'm going to go ahead and edit this. And I am going to add, and the name is Stadium Seating. And there is the document. Say okay. Finish. All right, and there's that. And here is the actual task itself. So once again, not sure why it didn't give it to me, but if you look at it, it is now updated with that document. And then I'm going to go in and complete this. And hopefully I will get the review after one refresh. There it is. All right. So once again, complete this. Great. And then there is one other task. So with the change, and I apologize once again for the delay in this one, the document or the task not showing up kind of stalled it a little bit. But once all the change tasks have been completed, there is one other task that is created. And that task is an audit. So at that point, what would happen is we would now go through and audit this process. So how deep the audit is up to you. So here it is, audit change notice for my chair alterations. When I select on this, it gives me that change notice that I just went in and updated, so I can go back and view each one of those tasks that was completed. The other thing that I can also do, because of how this thing is all woven together, is that if I need to go all the way back to the change request or even into the problem report to see what the original information was, I can still do that. Because remember, in this change notice, excuse me, inside of here are the different tasks, but it also gives me a link to the change request. So I can go there, which will then give me a link to the problem report. So if I need to do that trail, I can. But once again, with this audit, I will go through and review everything to make sure that what we wanted is actually what we have and all the appropriate information is done. So audit of the change notice, everything is good. So I'll go ahead and say complete. And now everything has been done. So there's a lot into that change notice. Once again, whether we're talking to task, whether we're going in and updating the files. I do just remember that there was one thing that I forgot to do in the change, but I can't do it at this point, but I can show you what it is, and that was setting effectivity. I meant to do that when I was in that dialog box with the resulting objects. In the resulting objects, I can set effectivity to go through and define when these models become effective. So I will show you that, but I'll show you that in just a moment. So let's go back into my data real quick. And now we can see that everything is updated, no more change process. But the benefit, once again, of all of this is that when I go into here and I look at changes, there's a change that was associated with this. When I go to history and I look at the versioning, so how was this created? It was changed, it was created through this ECN. So I can always track it, whether it's under changes or whether it's under history. I can always get back to that change that basically created that version of the file. So I can go in and do that here as well. One of the other things in here, so we have the related objects, all that's updated. This is updated with the WT part information, structure information. If it was the top level, it would have additional information. So all of that is here as well. So all this has been updated. All the tasks have been completed. And once again, we can always get back to that information through the changes. Now there is specifically, if you needed to go through and find it, underneath each product or library, there is a specific area for tasks. So they don't show up with all of your other files, but you can go into tasks and see the things that were in there as well. So all of that is here. Same thing with this document here. When I go into here, there's a link as well. So that document is always linked to this change process. All right. I do want to, once again, show you the effectivity. So what we're looking at here is there's another assembly that I have that is a mode-based assembly. And then their effectivity is not shown by default. And for the model that you're in, you can set the current effectivity of the version of the file by going in and editing it, but you can't do it for the history. So basically, you're going to set effectivity from this point forward with that. Now, the benefit of effectivity is, once again, we're going into specifying when a certain configuration is valid. So yes, we may go through and complete this version of the file today, but it may not be valid until the first of the year. So basically, if somebody comes in and gets a bomb today, they're still going to get this current configuration. They're not going to get the new one because that bomb does not become active until the first of the year. So that's what effectivity does with our models. Now, how can we go through and look at that? If we go into our structure tab, by default, of course, it's always showing us the latest and greatest. What we're able to do is edit the filter. And in the filtering tab, I'm going to go ahead and remove this being the latest and change this from latest to date effectivity. I want it to be of the design view and then when. So I'm going to give it a date that I want to go through and look at the structure. So what was this structure? Let's just say back last year at this time. So tell me what this structure looked like back a year ago. And then I'm going to apply it to top level and below, and anything that does not have an effectivity date during this time, basically just use the latest and greatest. So I'll go ahead and say okay. And what you will see is it now goes in and it changes these files. So now it was dash, now it is at 2 and 2 and 1 and 1. And it's even telling us that this configuration that we're looking at is not the latest. We're looking at a previous configuration of this. And we're looking at that because we went in and edited this information. So if I want to look at it at an older date, let's go back, and instead of it being November, let's look at March of last year on the 16th. Update that. Once again, top level and everything below it. And then of course, anything that does not have effectivity, use the latest. And that's what you see. So for this one, the only one that had effectivity was this top level assembly. There was no effectivity set for the sub parts underneath it, so they're using the latest and greatest. So it's telling us that we're not looking at the latest configuration of the assembly. We can always just go ahead and say go latest, and that will then update this configuration to the dash. All right, any questions on any of this information? So once again, in the change notice process, and I do see that there are a couple of questions that I will answer. But in the change notice process, once again, we're going in and now actually making the changes. We don't have to do everything at once. As you saw, we actually created multiple tasks that we were using for this. So it did not have just one task that we were going in and doing. It was 3 tasks, and we specified the order, and we can always specify who does it. And then once again, when those are done or in that process, we can also go through and set, as I said before, the affected items down below will be the resulting items, basically the items that are going to be changed or the ones that were changed or new files, whatever it may be. And then this is where, and once again, I meant to set that here, but this is where we can view or set the effectivity of the objects. So, but because this is complete, I'm not going to go in and do this at this point. All right, so let me look at a couple of these questions that we have. Let me see. The date is information. I don't, at this point, I have to double check, but I don't think it actually sends out any notifications because I don't, even just saying it, I know it doesn't send out a notification unless it got mixed up in all my tasks. But remember when I pulled up the change request, it had a date that was actually last week, and I don't remember getting a notification that I had something that was old. But that may be something that we can go through and double check and validate or see how we can go through and get the notification sent out appropriately for that. The next one, we have our going to 7 or 8. So the question is, the next question, I should say, is that when they're going in and submitting their ECN for review, it goes to multiple people. And is there a way of going in and specifying from that group of people who it actually needs to be assigned to? So basically what he's saying is that inside of here, underneath this change administrator 1, they either have multiple people or a group of people listed, or a group with multiple people in it listed, and everybody's getting that information. Is there a way of going in and pinpointing who exactly that goes to? For the change notice. Don't think there is. I don't think there's a way of singling out anybody because it sends it to that role. It's not like when you're doing a promotion request where you can go through and select individuals from a role that you can send it to. This is actually sending it through that workflow to that specific role, and whoever is in that role will get that notification. The only other thing that they can do is if that individual that is assigned to it, or should be assigned to it, once they realize that, excuse me, they can accept it and it gets removed from everybody else. But the initial notification, I don't think there is a way of singling out somebody from that group that it goes to. That's a good question. I can look into it a little bit more, but like I said, my initial feeling is that there's no way of singling out one individual from that role that needs to get that notification. Like I said, the change process works a little bit different than the actual promotion process does. Where the promotion process, once again, you can go in and do that. All right. The next one, the release target was not selected. No, so it says the release target was not selected for any of the files under the change task. It will pick any of the states by default. No, so what it does, so the change, the release target, sorry, can be specified by the change in the life cycle. It can be set by whatever whatever state is specified in the change role for the state that it's currently at. So when you do a revise, let me back up real quick. So when you do a revise and that item gets revised from release to, or I should say production to production and work. In that life cycle for production and work, there is a row for change. Excuse me. Whatever state that is set to when this change is done, that is what it's going to use by default. There is another option in there, I think that it is production release or something like that, that can also be used to define where this goes when this is completed. So unless we go through and do something specific, it is going to use that change state to go in and set it to. So that's why everything got set back to released. And I did not, you're right, I did not specify what the release target was going to be specified from. If I don't specify it, it's always going to use the change as that option. Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. Yeah, going back to the multiple people receiving it. Yeah, the additional comment was, yeah, basically when it goes to everybody, everybody assumes everybody else is doing it. So basically at that point, unfortunately, more than likely nobody does it. It says you can accept, yes, you can accept the tasks for the individual. You can accept the task for the individual in the group. Yeah, I guess as an admin, I can go through and manipulate it and accept it and remove it from everybody else. Definitions for ECN states, implementation release. Edward, send me an email. I think you're looking for some information. I can send you that information. So you're looking for the definition of ECN states, the implementation, release, and all that. So there's actually a hierarchy of how all those things work and when they're completed, what else it affects. So there's a whole chart that goes from the change request and all of that into the change notice and all of that. So each one of those has a life cycle that is associated with it, and that the life cycles have different workflows, and the workflows kick off different processes. So there's a whole hierarchy of how those work, and once you complete one, how it completes all the other ones. So yeah, send me an email and I can send you that information. All right, so it looks like at this point, that is all of the questions. So just as a follow-up, I once again do want to say thank you for everyone that has attended. I appreciate you guys coming on and actually staying for the whole thing. Although we're just a few minutes over 12:30, but there's a lot of information in here, and I hope that you guys did definitely get some needed information from this. Once again, if you do not have or did not sit through the first one, the part 1 of change management, same thing, email me and I can go in and send you a link to that. That way you can see the problem report, change request, and then transition into the change notice. It's just like looking at a movie and looking at part 2 without ever seeing part 1. Let's look at part 1 too. But once again, if you want to email me at michael.wimberly@pdsvision.com. You can also go to our website, pdsvision.com. Inside of there, you'll see, of course, all kinds of information about who we are, what we do, upcoming webinars, training, services that we provide, software that we provide, all of that you can see from our website. And of course, you can go through and access webinars from our YouTube. Some of our newer webinars are not going to be available on YouTube immediately. So if you do want access to those, email me. Anyone that is on this call will get access or get a link to this webinar. So you will actually get this. If you were on the one that I did 2 weeks ago, you also got that one. Once again, if you want it and you didn't get it, email me, I can send it to you. I can send you a link to that as well. So on this one, like I said, if you're on this one, you will get a link to this one. If you want part 1, email me and I'll send you a link to part 1 as well. But other than that, thank you all for your time. And once again, look forward to you guys attending more webinars coming up. And if you need anything from us, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you greatly for your time and have a great remainder of the afternoon.